Thank you for this opportunity. It is a very special one for me because my grandfather immigrated from your wonderful country. I want to share with you the question on my heart right now. It's this: why? Why is this brilliant species of ours able to conquer outer space, but not able to conquer hunger, the most basic of human needs? So I've asked, what is distinct about our species? One thing is that we see the world through mental maps, through culturally determined frames that determine what we can see and what we cannot see. And the world crisis today, I believe, is that we are locked inside of a mental map that is perversely aligned with nature and with human nature. So it is bound to fail. Now, what is this mental map? It is characterized by seeing life as disassociated parts and by lack, by scarcity of everything. So we end up creating the very scarcity that we say we fear. What I mean is that we create the experience of scarcity of food from the actuality of plenty. I say plenty. How can that be? Well, today, 2,900 calories are produced for every single person on Earth, 3 to 4 pounds. And there's an increase in production of food per person of 60% since 1960. We live in a world of plenty, and yet the experience of our people is that 1 in 4 of us is nutritionally deprived. How can I say 1 in 4 when the Food and Agriculture Organization tells us that 800 million are hungry? Well, that measure is by calorie alone. But let us add to our assessment the fact that the World Health Organization tells us that 2 billion people are deficient in at least 1 key nutrient. And this is no small matter, because being deficient in iron, for example, is implicated in 1 in 5 maternal deaths. And being deficient in vitamin A is the cause of perhaps up to 500,000 children going blind every year. Dire. Additionally, 1 out of every 4 children under 5 in the world are diagnosed on average as stunted. Now, stunting is not just being short. It is a medical condition that lasts a lifetime. It is implicated in cognitive impairment, immune system suppression, and as I say, it is a lifelong condition. So that's how I can conclude that realistically, 1/4 of humanity is suffering from nutritional deprivation while we are in the midst of plenty. So how do we arrive then at this situation? A situation in which a doctor communicated to me from rural India that he sees 2,000 patients a month, and over the last several decades, he's noticed that they're all getting enough calories, but 60% are suffering from diabetes and heart conditions. How did we get to this point that food supply is disconnected from our actual nutritional needs? It's because of our worldview that we've given over our logic to the logic, peculiar logic of a market that's driven by one rule, that is highest return to existing wealth, which leads to such concentration in this industry that food is today, that nutrition and our food supply are now disconnected. So what is the solution? Back to the worldview. We can let go of this false and dangerous worldview and embrace what is emerging across virtually all the disciplines, telling us that life operates in systems, interacting systems, and whether it's supporting life depends on the quality of those relationships. And so let's look at that. Where are solutions arising? I had the privilege of being in southern India, sitting with in front of their mounds of beautiful grains, women of the Deccan Development Society. And they told me that several decades ago their lives were dark, humiliated, on the edge of hunger, constantly worried about feeding their children, never having enough. And now, today, after decades of working together, every week they meet together to decide how to transform away from chemical-dependent agriculture to life-serving, biodiverse, agroecological farming. They took me out into their fields, an acre growing 20 crops with a full complement of human nutrition right there in front of me. These women were smiling and dignified and empowered as they told me about their own radio station where they share what they're learning, as they told me about how they were able to negotiate with the state government. So the government now procures their millets that are much healthier than white rice for the public distribution system that had up until that time only distributed the nutritionless white rice. So these women are telling me their story and ending it with saying what we have gained through working together to solve our problems. We have gained courage, a quality of that relationship. Now, let's go to Africa, to Niger, one of the poorest countries in the world. Very, very, very dry now as the Sahara Desert is moving south, so to speak, and many people in Niger felt that there may be no future for them until they began to realize the traditions that they could draw on and their own collaborative problem solving to regreen through the nurturing of 200 million trees on 12.5 million acres. They were able to establish a life-serving agriculture in which trees and crops work together and support one another, and have met the food security needs of 2.5 million people. So both in southern India, where I told you about the Deccan Development Society, in that group of women, it's a much larger movement now reaching 2 million people in southern India. And in Africa, here we are in this area that size of Costa Rica, that small farmers working together have regreened and secured food security for themselves. So these lessons, what are these lessons from such examples that are happening all over the world? They tell us, you have power, certainly as legislators, we all have power. How do we use that power? We take the lessons about the quality of human relationships and our relationships with the earth. We ask whether they are meeting the human need for connection with each other, for meaning in our lives, for a sense of agency. We use that as our lens to judge whether or not our relationships that we are building are actually serving life. And in that direction, we can end hunger. Thank you.